If you're dreaming about traveling full-time as a family with your kids, where you start matters more than you might realize. Some countries make the first few months of travel really easy and fun, and other countries can make you just want to quit and go home. Hi, we're the Real Travel Family, a UK family of 3 traveling the world and world schooling our 8-year-old son. We left the UK back in July 2024, and since then we've been traveling through Europe, Southeast Asia, Australia, and currently we're in India. Here on this channel, we share all of the ups and downs, challenges, and incredible experiences that we have, and we share lots of resources and tools and ideas and tips so that you can leave the UK and travel the world with your family as well. So why is the first year, or the first few months anyway, different to the rest of long-term travel? Well, remember, when you first leave the UK, you're finding your feet. You're figuring out what works, you're figuring out what doesn't work, not just for you and your partner, but also for your children. You know, you may have left school, you may have left jobs, you may have left family and friends, your home, all the comforts of the UK for the unknown in many cases, and that's a lot. You're also learning about things like visas, about traveling, like flying, buses, overnight trains. You're learning about world schooling or homeschooling. You're learning about different types of budgeting, parenting on the road. And everything just takes more time and more energy and more patience to begin with. It's not always easy, but if this is the life that you've chosen, it's absolutely possible to make it work long term. And I really believe that, you know, it's like everything, isn't it? Confidence doesn't come from just doing things once. Confidence comes from doing things again and again and again. And the longer you're doing this, the longer you're living this lifestyle, the longer that you're chasing the visas and booking flights and dealing with accommodation issues and dealing with hot climates and food and all the things, the more you do it, the more you practice, if you like, the more confident you'll become in dealing with these challenges and dealing with these experiences as they come up. So I really think the first few months isn't about your dream country, it's actually about making it easy for you. So what makes a country first year friendly? If you haven't traveled before, whether it was with kids or not, I would really recommend trying to choose easier countries to start with when you first leave the UK. So there's a lot of things that make an easy country just that, an easy country. To start with, think about visas. So is getting your visa simple, straightforward, or is it going to be a lot of paperwork, a lot of mucking around, very expensive, or just not how you want it to be? I mean, some places a visa only lasts for 30 days. Other countries you can stay there for 180 days. So I think visa is an important thing to think about to start with. Can you get a visa easily? And is it a straightforward process if you need to renew it as well and extend it? Think about day-to-day living. So first of all, if you're traveling on a budget, how much is day-to-day living? Is it going to be something you can afford to do? Can you afford the accommodation you want? Can you afford to eat out? Can you afford to do the day trips and the excursions that you want to do? Can you afford to just live there, basically? So I think somewhere that's affordable within your budget is obviously really, really important. If you have a bigger budget, then that's great. You know, you can go to countries that cost a bit more, like Bali or Australia or somewhere like that. If your budget's more tight, then maybe you need to think about places like Cambodia or India. The next important thing to think about is transport. How are you going to get around when you're in this country? Is it easy to get around? Do you need to hire a scooter? Are you able to hire a scooter? Is that something you're confident in doing? If not, can you hire a car? Or can you take your own car? Or are you going to be relying on public transport like buses and trains? Or is there things like tuk-tuks and taxis and grabs cars that you can take all the time? So have a think about the transport. Have a think about how easy it would be to get around once you're there. Another important thing to think about is access to healthcare. Now, obviously, hopefully you won't need to access any healthcare while you're traveling, but if you do, what is it like in that country? So there's a lot of countries where Western healthcare standards are not the norm, obviously, but that doesn't mean they're bad. It just means it's different. I mean, a lot of countries like, for example, Bali, Thailand, obviously Australia, America, and some South America countries, or Central America countries, have very, very high levels of standards of healthcare. They're clean, they're friendly, they speak English, or they have English-speaking doctors. And, you know, it's affordable still. Other countries, it might be a little bit more difficult. So, you know, thinking places like India, Sri Lanka, Cambodia. But that's not to say that you can't access healthcare. It's very, very cheap. So there's that. I mean, I've been in hospital in Sri Lanka and I broke my wrist in Thailand. And both places, the service was fantastic. I got treated really quickly, really effectively. I got my problem resolved and, you know, I was out the door really fast. So actually compared to the NHS, in lots of ways, it's a lot better. But as a whole, it's cheap, it's effective, it's efficient, and it's not as scary as you might think. But obviously check your travel insurance as well and make sure you're confident and you feel comfortable in the country that you're in, that you will, if you need to access healthcare, you're comfortable in doing so. Look at the community in that country as well. There are some incredible places in the world which I would love to visit, and I have visited before Jai, but I wouldn't necessarily take Jai there because there's not so much of a world schooling, community, family-friendly vibe there. It would be amazing to take him and go there and just, you know, not join any hubs. But if you want communities, if you want world schooling hubs or world schooling families around you and have that sense of community, then you need to think about the countries that have that. So places like Thailand, Bali, in like Goa, Vietnam, Hoi An in particular, and then obviously in Central and South America, there's a lot as well. I mean, just do your research really. There's places all over the world where there is a huge community of world schooling families, either formal or informal hubs. If that's what you're looking for, that's got to be really a huge priority in where you choose your first few countries. And I think as an overall way of thinking about the first few months is you don't want it to be too hard. You don't want to be stressed all the time. You don't want to be overwhelmed by things. You don't want to be overwhelmed with the busyness or the heat or the challenges of a country. You want it to be fairly straightforward to start with. And that's why so many families start in places like Thailand or Bali or somewhere like Costa Rica or Europe, because there is such an established world schooling community already there. There are lots of hubs. They're safe, they're friendly, they're quite westernized, and it's just easy if you're a newbie to traveling. All right, so where are good places to start for those first few months? My favorite is Southeast Asia, and it's a favorite of lots of British families. And the reason it works is because it's so affordable. I mean, there are different countries in Southeast Asia have different costs of living. So Thailand is a bit more expensive, Bali, but it's only because they're so westernized. But if you go somewhere like Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, the rest of Indonesia, Philippines can be cheaper. You know, it's very affordable. And compared to the UK, everywhere in Southeast Asia is affordable. So you can get somewhere to rent for a month for, you know, £500 or £600. And then you can feed your family just for a few quid a day, really. So they're all very, very affordable. There's great transport, so you can definitely hire a scooter. They're pretty easy to get about on if you want to hire a moped. But there's also obviously tuk-tuks and Grab taxis and Grab motorbikes, which is it's a bit like Uber, but in Asia, and they're brilliant. And then just getting around longer distances, you've got the buses, you've got the trains. Even flying between countries is very, very cheap and easy because there's so many short distance flights going around Southeast Asia. So transport is brilliant. They're also really used to travellers. They're really used to kids and families travelling, but also backpackers. They've been, you know, welcoming backpackers for years and years and years, decades. They're so used to travellers. They're used to, for example, if you order a curry in Thailand, you can say not spicy for your kids and they will bring it out not spicy. It's easy to, lots of them speak English pretty well. And they're just used to us being there, and it makes it a lot easier. And they're very, very helpful. They're very, very welcoming. They're just beautiful people. So I think some of my favourite places in Southeast Asia to get started would be Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia is a great place as well. Quite underrated, but actually a really good place, and lots and lots and lots of world schooling families there. And Indonesia, in particular Bali, there's a lot of world schooling hubs. But Indonesia is stunning, so just Indonesia as a whole. The food is great. The food options for kids is great. If your kids are a bit fussy, there's always fried rice, or there's always like pad thai or fried noodles. You can't go wrong. But like I said, if you order a dish and it's normally a spicy dish, just say not spicy, and it will come out not spicy. So it's so easy. It's so easy. Things like chicken satay, peanut sauce. Kids love all that kind of stuff. And there's amazing fruits, and they do, fruit juices, fresh coconuts. Yeah, food's great. The second place that's definitely worth mentioning is parts of Europe. So, obviously Europe isn't as cheap as Southeast Asia and other parts of the world, but it's familiar. So if you're just starting out with your travels from the UK, Europe is a great option. In fact, that's what we did back in July 2024. We actually bought a caravan and we drove around Europe for 3 months just to kind of test the waters, to see if Jai would enjoy the travelling, just to see what we needed and what we didn't need and how it would work with the world schooling. So it's a great place to start if you're not sure. You've got all the things, like you've got the amazing cities and beaches. It's very Western, so you've got the healthcare systems, you can kind of communicate with people a bit easier. You understand how things work a bit better, I guess. Public transport is fantastic. You can jump on a bus, you can hire a car, you can, do all those things. And it's like being at home, but still different. Obviously, it is a bit more expensive, but it depends what country you go to, and it depends what you do in those countries. If you go to different parts of Spain, it's not going to cost as much as if you go down to the, Costa Blanca or Costa del Sol, where everyone is British. You can go to different parts of Spain. There's Portugal, France, and obviously then there's Eastern Europe, and places like Albania or Hungary are amazing as well. And then there's Australia or New Zealand. Now, these are just stunning countries, and there is so much to see and do there. They are very Western, so they all speak English. Everything is very, very similar to what we're used to in the UK. The healthcare system, homeschooling is very, very welcome there as well. Obviously, they speak English. They drive on the left side of the road. It's really similar. Supermarkets are similar. Everything is it's same, but different. So if you want an easy place to go, I would definitely recommend Australia or New Zealand. Because it's kind of like it's like being at home but not being at home. Obviously, the problem with Australia and New Zealand is the cost. So Australia is very expensive. It's kind of on par with the UK, I'd say, to buy food, to go out, to accommodation, all of those things. It's not a cheap place to go, and obviously getting there is not the cheapest destination to start with. But it's a really good place for confidence building, because you can travel around, you can spend a few months there, you can see amazing scenery, beaches, meet some amazing people. New Zealand has got skiing and it's got adventure sports, and it's just both countries are incredible. But it's probably not long-term travel unless you're working, which is obviously a different option. If you want to get a work visa and work there, then fantastic. And then countries like India, Sri Lanka, Nepal, which is where we are at the moment in India, they're fantastic. I love these countries. I've been to all three, and they are definitely worth visiting. There's a lot of culture. There's a lot of, the food is incredible. You've got some incredible learning experiences for your kids if you're world schooling. And there is a huge world schooling community in Goa, where we are at the moment, but there also is in Nepal and there is in Sri Lanka. You will always find community here with other Westerners, for sure, and other kids. I would say the downside to picking these countries first is it's quite chaotic. It's quite stressful at times. If you're not used to this, if you're not used to traveling, India, Sri Lanka, Nepal can be quite challenging. there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of noise, there's cows on the street, it's busy, very, very busy, quite hectic. Elements of safety as well, I would say, in parts of India that you need to watch out for. So I would recommend these countries more after you've got some more confidence. So after you've travelled to Southeast Asia, Europe, Australia, Caribbean, wherever, then I would say India, Sri Lanka, Nepal. I would highly recommend them. Don't sort of cross them off your list, but just when you feel more confident in travelling. Some of the places to be a bit more careful of in your first few months are places where you might have really complex visa applications. So if getting a visa is difficult or complicated, or it means leaving after a short time, I would maybe avoid those countries to start with. If you're going to be doing a lot of border hopping constantly, especially if it's a visa issue, then that's hard work, constantly having to cross borders. Because you've got visas, you've got just the stress of crossing borders, because they're never fun. Anywhere that requires, a lot of planning. Anywhere where you're not sure you're going to have any sense of community. Anywhere you're not sure about safety aspects. Anywhere you're not sure about political instability. And then moving too fast. So if you're constantly moving around, it just gets exhausting and you'll end up burning out, and your kids won't be happy and you won't be happy, and you'll end up throwing in the towel and going home sooner than you wanted to. So remember to slow travel as much as you can. So don't sort of move around too fast to start with. There's definitely changes though after the first few months. You start to build that resilience. You start to understand how things work. You start to become more practiced in things like visas and border runs and travel and flying and all of those sort of things, and negotiating accommodation and scooters and all of the stuff that you do. You build that resilience and you get more practice and you become more confident in just traveling and just being in a different country. You learn to, I think, trust your intuition as well. I think when we first leave the UK, you can either be too open and open to scams, or you could be too closed and cynical and suspicious and actually not open to new experiences. I think the longer that you travel and the more countries you go to and the more experience you have in traveling, the more you learn to trust your intuition about people, about situations, about places, and the safer you feel, because you know if something doesn't feel quite right, you know how to get yourself out of that situation, but also maybe you wouldn't put yourself in that situation to start with. But also you don't miss out on experiences just because you're worried that you're going to get scammed. Most people don't want to scam you. Most people want to help you. So it's about having a balance between being open and trusting, but also being mindful and aware of situations. You can also start making some more adventurous choices as well. So instead of playing it safe and staying in Bali or staying in Thailand, you can actually go, you know what, let's go to India, let's go to Nepal, let's go to, Bolivia or something, and go somewhere completely different and do something completely exciting and adventurous, having even more amazing experiences with your family. I hope this helped. If you're planning your first year of family travel, traveling the world schooling your kids and leaving the UK, or if you're just watching this and wondering if a life like this could work for you, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. This is the place where I share the real logistics, the real experiences, the real ups and downs of full-time world travel with the kids.